Welcome to Turkish series Stars, where we look past the glossy images of fame and try to trace the contours of the people living inside them. If you're new here, subscribe, hit join if you're able to support independent storytelling, and remember to like and share your thoughts. Your voice truly shapes what we investigate next. Now, let's begin. A quiet, profound shift appears to be taking shape in the life of one of Turkey's most prominent leading men. For years, Alp Navas projected a vibrant certainty, rakish charm, unforced charisma, a presence that seemed to occupy any room with ease. He carried roles with the buoyancy of someone who never had to push. The camera seemed to meet him halfway. But those who know him say that glow has turned inward lately, his attention no longer aimed at dazzling crowds so much as listening to a softer inner frequency. Recent weeks, according to close contacts, have been unusual for Alp. Meetings were rescheduled, a slate of proposals slowed, and the perpetual loop of public engagements thinned. Friends insist this isn't merely a busy calendar easing off. They describe a deliberate step back, a decision to protect a private life that had begun to feel eclipsed by the shadow of a public persona. If performance once defined the days, reflection is now setting the rhythm. Enter Alina Bos, collaborator, confidant, and a celebrated presence in her own right. The media framed the two as a refined duet. Beautiful, successful, and impeccably coordinated for every camera angle. Photo spreads, interviews, and carefully punctual posts crafted an impression of seamless harmony. Yet behind that curated choreography, people close to the pair suggest a more complicated choreography took shape, one where admiration didn't always equal understanding. Those observers, cautious but consistent, say the spark that flared so brightly in front of audiences did not always carry the same warmth when the lights dimmed. What fans call the perfect match sometimes felt, to insiders, like an exchange between a man navigating an identity and a partner drawn to the atmosphere that identity could summon. It's not that Alina lacked genuine feeling, these sources argue, but that the aura around Alp, the access, the acclaim, the temperature of celebrity, could be as captivating as the man himself. The beautiful symmetry seen on feeds and billboards might have been more fragile than it looked. Psychologists who study public relationships often caution that the spotlight can twist even the healthiest dynamics. When affection becomes tethered to the benefits orbiting a person, status, momentum, the alluring hum of influence, the individual risks becoming a vessel for another's aspirations. People close to Alp say he felt a subtle, persistent pressure to keep delivering a version of himself that was maximizable, charming, bankable, tireless. They describe someone who, in private, spoke less and listened more, who kept returning to the same question in different words: if I am not performing, who do I become? Some nights he would silence the patter he uses for interviews and just ask, who am I when the bulbs go dark, a longtime friend confided. That kind of question, when it lands with sincerity, can rearrange everything. It's the beginning of change, not because the answer arrives quickly, but because refusing to dodge the question alters the shape of a life. From the outside, the changes have been quiet but sure-footed. Alp has been leaning on people who knew him long before red carpets, picking up old threads with family, pruning obligations that felt more like costumes than commitments. Online, the tone is edited, fewer victory laps, fewer performative declarations, a noticeable cooling of the impulse to make a press release out of every private moment. For a star whose work has often depended on visibility, choosing restraint is a radical statement. Sometimes the bravest thing is not to appear. Amid this inward turn, the partnership with Alina reportedly entered a tense chapter. In an industry that reads vulnerability as a metric, brands and agencies began to re-evaluate stories they'd pinned to the couple. Campaigns that once felt like fait accompli paused, recalibrated, or quietly faded. We're told it wasn't always personal, it was narrative. The myth of the invincible, endlessly shareable pair no longer matched what the market wanted to buy. And when a myth wobbles, contracts can wobble too. People close to Alina emphasize that the repercussions landed unevenly. Without the amplified drumbeat of a partner whose every move magnetized attention, her professional landscape suddenly felt more exacting. The curated romance, that elegant silhouette both had so carefully maintained, no longer functioned as a reliable engine for opportunity. This isn't to say she lost her footing as an artist, it's to say the path forward looked steeper without the glow of a two-person spotlight. Alongside career concerns, there was the quieter cost, isolation, second-guessing, the unwelcome intimacy of uncertainty. It would be easy to cast villains and victims and walk away satisfied. But human bonds rarely obey simple plots, and fame distorts scale. Minor disagreements become headlines. Private ache reads like scandal. Those circling the couple mention episodes of pressure, moments when image seemed to steer emotion, times when affection had to compete with the expectations of an audience. Others, just as close, suggest a different reading: two talented people doing their best inside a system that rewards spectacle faster than sincerity, reaching for one another even as the stage demanded more than either could sustainably give. For Alp, the path described by friends sounds less like a rebrand and more like a reset. He is said to be measuring success against quieter markers: mornings unbroken by notifications, afternoons unplanned, conversations that don't require performance. There's talk of smaller projects chosen not for optics but for soul, of time spent close to home, of friendships maintained without selfies or captions. Those who've seen him lately notice it in the way he smiles: fewer angles, more ease. Will that inwardness bloom into new creative power, or will it carry him into a calmer orbit outside the constant churn? Too soon to say. What seems clear is his determination to build a life with stronger beams underneath it, a life that can bear the weight of attention without collapsing underneath it. That kind of reorientation is slow. It happens in the way someone says no, or the way they stop explaining their no at all. As for Alina, sources sketch a picture of recalibration that looks both challenging and promising. Stepping out of the double image allows her to test what sustains her apart from the rhythm of a celebrated partnership. Friends describe a woman who is learning to separate applause from affection, who is widening her circle beyond the logic of clout, who is choosing collaborators for the work rather than the halo effect. In private, they say, she is as disciplined as she is sensitive, able to inventory her missteps without dissolving into them. We at Turkish series stars want this to be a conversation, not just a voice talking at you. What do you make of this turn inward? Is choosing to step away from the spotlight a healing act of courage, or does it risk abandoning obligations to fans and partners? Which Turkish celebrity should we explore next if we want to understand what fame asks of the human heart? Comment with care, your insight directs our lens. It's tempting to tidy this all up with a lesson. But emergence rarely organizes itself into neat lines. It's layered, uneven, unfinished by design. And yet, the signals are hard to miss: an artist refusing to become consumable at the expense of continuity, a partner acknowledging that borrowed glow cannot do the deeper labor of intimacy, a public being asked to watch with curiosity rather than hunger. In that refusal to surrender to the churn, a strange freedom appears, the freedom to live a life picked rather than posed. For Alp Navas, people closest to him describe a journey that is ongoing, fragile, and real. The stakes are not just professional, they are moral and emotional. He seems to be choosing steadiness over noise, asking art to serve life rather than the other way around. If he succeeds, the work may deepen. If he falls short, perhaps the fall will teach him what the climb couldn't. Either way, the course he's charting looks like a bet on authenticity. For Alina Bos, the next act may require building ground that doesn't rely on reflection. Not because she lacks her own light, she has it. But because relying on a mirror can make even the brightest flame flicker. Those who cheer for her hope she trusts the strength she's honed over years of craft and challenge, a strength that doesn't need a chorus to resonate. And for the rest of us, the invitation is to consume less and wonder more. The images we scroll past are careful constructions, not blueprints for being. If we can remember that, we might grant our favorites the space to change without punishing them for it. We might also learn to recognize the difference between a story told for us and a story lived by them. Before you go, add a name in the comments. Who should we profile next with patience and respect? Subscribe to Turkish series stars, tap join if you can, and help keep this channel independent and attentive. Your engagement funds the kind of nuance that algorithms can't be bothered with. Thank you for your time. Until we meet again, keep your eyes open, keep your hearts generous, and, as always, ask for whatever you need. Some endings refuse to be endings. In private rooms where no one is filming, where laughter isn't proof and silence isn't a failing, people try again. They apologize, they renegotiate, they release. Perhaps Alp and Alina will do some of that now, maybe together, maybe apart, translating the noisy script of a public romance into something more human, a friendship that survives pressure, a love that evolves outside the market, or a graceful goodbye that honors what was real. If they are lucky, they will learn to be gentle with the parts of themselves that do not perform on cue. If we are lucky, we will give them the time to find out. Time is the only honest critic. It will tell us whether the pause becomes a pattern, whether the quiet was a detour or a destination. If Alp returns to the set with deeper reserves, if Alina finds a new equilibrium that is hers alone, we will see it not in captions but in simple gestures, a steadier gaze, a laugh that doesn't angle for a lens, a scene that feels breathed rather than rehearsed. These are subtle things, but real life is mostly subtle. Even in the glare. And if you're still here, know this, the story isn't a secret map to their souls. It's a collection of murmurs gathered at a respectful distance. We can't claim to know what only two people truly know. But the pattern is legible. A man pulling back from the edge of constant exposure. A woman reconsidering what sustains her when the applause quiets. Two careers resilient enough to bend without breaking. These are not scandals, they are thresholds. Crossed carefully, they can lead to better rooms. Turkish series stars will be here to watch thoughtfully, to ask questions without sharpening them into spears. We'll keep listening for the quieter truths, the ones that don't fit neatly into a headline but shape the way a life feels from the inside. If there is a lesson here, it is not about perfection. It is about permission. To edit, to pause, to start again with fewer witnesses and stronger roots. Because, in the end, the spotlight is a tool, not a home. And home is the place you return to when the scene wraps and your name doesn't echo anymore. If Alp is finding his way back, if Alina is building hers anew, then maybe what we're really witnessing is not an ending at all, but the first draft of something truer. We'll be here for whatever comes next, and we'll greet it with the same promise, curiosity, context, and care.